In this video, I'm going to show you how to maintain temperatures for 10, 12, or even 14 hours on a charcoal grill to smoke a tender and juicy pork butt using nothing but a charcoal grill, charcoal chimney, charcoal thermometers, and of course a pork butt. Get that bone. That's tender. That's juicy. Now I want to cover real briefly what I call my 6 principles of temperature management. These will help you and guide you along the way, and refer to these as often as you need to. 1. Always know before you even start what you want your goal temperature to be. If you want to cook at 225, or you want to smoke at 250 or 75, whatever the case may be, know ahead of time. Having said that, guys, I want to offer you guys a free temperature guide. All you got to do is go to the link in my description, and it's grumpysgreatoutdoors.com, and put your email address in there, and I'll send you a temperature guide. It's a really nice temperature guide, so it gives you both beef, chicken, poultry, fish and seafood, as well as vegetables. It's a great little guide to give you a temperature guide and time guide. So be sure and go on there and click on that and get that guide. Really handy. All right, guys, the second principle in the 6 principles is to select your method. Are you going to use the snake method? Are you going to use a minion method? Minion method is more so for the deeper bullet type smokers like the Weber Smoky Mountain. There's also devices you can use. There's a slow and sear and the smoke and sizzle. If you're not familiar with those, I'll put a video up here in your left-hand corner, right-hand corner of your screen that kind of goes through them and shows you how they do and how they work. That's an option for you as well. You also have to choose what kind of wood you're going to use. I always tend to use pecan wood when I'm doing pork, and I tend to use oak wood when I'm doing beef. You can vary. There's tons of woods out there. Cherry, oak, pecan, mesquite. There's just tons of different wood flavors out there you can use. So select which one you're going to have and have that all set up, whether you're using chips or chunks, whatever you're going to use. Have all that kind of prepared for you as you start your cook before you get going. We're going to utilize the snake method. Now, the snake method is very popular when you have no devices to use. It's very, very easy to use, very easy to set up, and I'll show you how to do that now. You'll see I've got a couple rows here started. I'll continue these on all the way around, and then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll put charcoal just like this all the way around the top. Now what I'm going to do, guys, I'll use pecan wood chips, just actual small chips. I love pecan with pork, and I'll just sprinkle some of these throughout. Now a lot of people don't like these because they burn pretty easily. I like doing this. I think it does a really good job with adds a lot of good smoke. I'm losing some down the bottom, of course. That's a bad thing about it, but the choice of having that. And then I'll actually add a couple chunks of wood as well. I'm using pecan wood because I like pecan wood on pork. Now, my last chunk is right here about halfway through the snake, and the reason why I do that is because at that point in time, it's probably going to be time to wrap the pork butt in foil, and once I wrap it in foil, it's not taking on any more smoke anyway, so why waste wood, right? All right, guys, the third principle in the 6 principles is to work your vents accordingly. Now, you'll notice that in the bottom of the kettle, there's 3 paddles down here, and those paddles cover up 3 holes that are for ventilation purposes. Turn it to the left, it closes. Turn to the right, it opens up. Now, when you're starting your charcoal, you want this vent completely open, all the way open. This is your main source for air. So when you're starting your charcoal, you want it completely open. Now let's talk about the lid on the kettle. That is the vent on the lid. Now this vent, you also want wide open when you're starting your charcoal initially. You're going to leave this vent open as much as you possibly can, the entire cook if you can. This is for fine tuning, but if you leave it wide open and you're able to control your temperatures from below with the vent down there only, this vent being open creates more convection, allows you to have better bark on your meat. The more air pull you have over that meat, the better bark you're going to have. When you have to start closing this up significantly, you start causing yourself some soggy bark because it's just baking it basically. So leave this open best you can all the time. The bottom one we will close as we approach our target temperature. In this case, our target temperature is 225. So as we get to about 180 or 190, we may close it up just a little bit. As we get to 210, even more, until we have to kind of make it slow down. I kind of equate it to landing a plane. We're coming in slowly, going to land gracefully at 225. Now guys, if we get to 235, I'm okay with that. 10 degrees, 15 degrees is not a big deal. When you start getting 275 when you want 225, that's a bit of a problem. But when you're at 235, you want 225, just let it ride. You'll be okay. It's not that big a deal. There are some people, a lot of people like to put marks on this casing showing where the temperature is. They normally get 225 or 250 or 300 or whatever the case. Maybe they'll put a magic mark or a Sharpie mark somewhere on this casing here to show how far open the paddles are over the vents in the kettle. I just can't do that where I live. The weather has too much of a role, plays too much of a role. I live in a valley, and it gets windy through here sometimes. You probably hear the wind today, as a matter of fact. So I can't use that, but some people do. Just something to know that you could possibly do. And we're going to put our thermometer in. We've got a thermometer right here. It's an Inkbird. There's plenty of different kinds out there. If you don't have one, I'll put a link to one that'll work just fine in the description. And I'll put a thermometer probe on the top of the grate, because if you remember, there's a video in your upper right hand corner of your screen that I did. It talks about the 7 things you wish you knew before you bought a kettle. I talk about the thermometer on the kettle, this thermometer right here. This is not going to be real accurate for you guys because it's at the top of the kettle. You want your meat to be on the opposite side of the vent, so that what happens is the heat comes up and it pulls it over the meat. Well, that means this is right over the heat typically. So when it's over the heat, it's going to be reading way hotter than it actually is. So don't pay attention to this. You need to get yourself a thermometer like this one, something like this where you can put a probe in there on the grate, and that makes a huge difference in the way you're able to manage your temperature. But we'll go ahead and get our grate on, or get our charcoal in, and get it lit, and then we'll have the vent wide open when we're starting off. Put our charcoals, like I said, over there to one side of the chimney, or the snake, and have it start cooking this way, burning this way. What I'll do now is I'll take my chimney and I'll light about 5 or 6 briquettes, typically right in the middle of the snake. The reason why I do it in the kettle is because I want the heat from that kettle to kind of dry out these briquettes as best I can, so they're prepared and kind of preheated for the smoking process. I don't want a lot of smoke that's dirty, nasty smoke from the charcoal. I want the smoke from the wood chips, of course. Now, some of you may notice that I've got a gas assist on here if you're familiar with Weber Performers. Yes, I have gas assist. I'm not going to use it, though, because not everybody does. And I want to show you how anybody can smoke a pork butt on a charcoal grill, gas assist or no devices at all. We're going straight natural. I'm a chimney here, and I'll put my charcoals in this. I'm only using 6, guys. I'll put them all to one side as I light them. Now, I use these Weber lighter cubes. That's what I most often use. Simple and easy to use. Now, the other option I have, just so you know that's out there, is tumbleweeds. These tumbleweeds are just a really good device too. Royal Oak makes these, this particular one, but they're very simple and easy to use as well. But I like these cubes better. They seem to light very well. They just pop right out of here. Pop right out of this wax foil. Put it down in the middle. Off to the side a little. I'll put the charcoal stacked up on top of each other in the chimney. You put them right on top of the lighter cube. We'll let these charcoals ash over. They're going to be almost completely gray by the time I take them out of here. I'll use some tongs, and I'll set them at the edge of the beginning of the snake, which will be right over in this area, and I'll have it burned this way. There's our charcoals. Hope you can see how gray they are down in the chimney. They have completed. We're going to take them out of here. We're going to place them just at the end and on top of one end of the snake. So now we have our charcoals right here on this one end of the snake. Going to light it up really well, and we're going to put our lid on, get our grate on first. Get our thermometer in. Butt, where our smoke heat's right here, we're going to put our butt over here, so I want to know what it's at close to the butt. So I put my thermometer right there. Now I'm going to wait to put the butt on until I'm up to temperature. That will slow things down a little bit and add some coldness to the kettle. So that's kind of why I want to wait till I get close to that temperature and start slowing it down and then put the butt on. So for now, we're going to put lid on. This vent, of course, wide open. The one on top of the kettle is wide open, and it's across from the heat, so it's pulling out heat so you get a little convection. Now, while we're talking about this, very quickly, I want to talk, there's also variables you have to account for. For example, today's a little bit of a windy day, so the airflow is going to be much better than typical non-windy day. That will definitely affect how I control this temperature. I may have to use this top vent more than I want to just because the wind's out. But that's where we're kind of watching. We're just going to use the bottom and the top vent together, but use the bottom vent solely at first. So right now it's showing 106 degrees in there, and it's growing, 107, 108. It's going to work its way up. As I get to 180 or 190, I'll start closing the bottom vent down some. Keep in mind the wind, keep in mind those kind of environmental things you have no control over will play a role in your temperature control. But nonetheless, we'll wait here until we get to 180 and we'll start slowing it down, and I'll show you how that goes. All right, folks, the fourth principle, land the plane. And when we talked about that during the video, if your goal temperature is 225, when you get close to 180, 190 in that range, you start slowly closing that bottom vent on the Weber kettle, depending on your grill you have at home, but start closing the main vent on your grill at about 190, 180, something like that, and come slowly into that temperature of 225. As I said before, it's much easier to go up in temperature than it is to come down in temperature. So if you're at 350, 400, it's so hard to get back down to 225 in a timely manner, especially. So come in there slowly and gently. And remember, every movement you make on that vent is going to have a reaction. It may take 10 or 15 minutes before you get that reaction, but be patient with it. Work it slowly and land that plane. All right, guys, it's been about 5 or 8 minutes, and the temperature continues to climb. As you can see, it's up to 179, almost 180. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually turn it down the vent, close the vent just a hair bit. We have our pork butt ready to go on when it does get the temperature, but we're going to turn this down just a little bit. Not much, about that much right there. Just close it slightly. It's so much easier to go up in temperature than it is to come down in temperature. So if you get to 300 or 350, you'll have a real hard time to get it to come back down to 225. So that's why I start closing it slowly at the 180, 185, or like I said, in this case, 180. Continue to watch it as it gets closer and closer to that 225 range. Start slowly closing it even more as we need to and work the vents as accordingly. All right, guys, now we're up to 206. Close about halfway. We'll watch and see how it does. Okay, guys, I literally just turned the camera off and turned it back on because I want you to see how fast this has gone up. Now it's up to 220 and going fast. I closed it down a little bit just a second ago. What's happened is it's caught a piece of wood on fire, or a clump of wood chips has caught on fire, which is fine. We'll get our temperature up. But be cognizant of that, because if it happens and you get a burst of temperature, don't freak out real quick. Oh gosh, turn things down, shut it down, because it's just a piece of wood or chips that are burning. They'll end up burning out and just smoking, which is what you want. You'll see more smoke actually coming across the camera as it's now it's 222. So I'm gonna close it down even more. Now about halfway open, we're gonna let that go for a minute because we've closed it and we need to wait a few minutes for it to see what's gonna happen with this piece of wood that caught on fire, or if the closing of the vent slows the growth down some. But again, it takes a minute or two for that to show up. It's not gonna show up right away. You gotta wait a minute and don't overreact. It may go to 240 here, I don't know, but we're gonna wait a few minutes and see what happens. 225 now, 226, that's okay. We're gonna relax. Now we're gonna put our meat on in just a second anyway, so that'll actually take some temperature out of there and so forth. We're gonna go ahead and do that actually right now, I think, because we're up to 227. That'll help even things out. It is growing, but it's growing slowly. It's not taking off and going crazy on us. Taking the lid off will definitely make it lose temperature. Now the bone's on the other end, so I'm gonna put it on this end. There's no bone here, of course. This is the money muscle. This is the money muscle, and so I'm gonna put it right there, the temperature, with a probe on this end, halfway through, and put it into, and then put our butt on across from our fire. That's what we want to do. Put the bone towards the fire, so to speak. That helps a lot too. Well, if we grab all of this, and then we'll put our lid back on. And we are rocking and rolling, guys. We got our pork butt on, got our vent open over top of the pork butt. All right, guys, we just put our butt on, and I walked away for a few minutes. I put the lid back on, and we're up to 214 now. It dropped down to 170. Remember, 180. That's 214. That was literally maybe 3 minutes ago max. Probably 2 minutes ago. I had to walk in and get some batteries for the camera. One of the camera batteries died, so I had to go inside and get one of those, and I came back out. So we're at 215 now, and we're slowly climbing. I'm leaving it where I had it before, which is about halfway open. Just 215's fine. Could cook for a long time at 215. I'd be happy with that. I like 225. I even like 250, but not more than that. But around 225, at least for the first few hours. That's more smoking temperature when you have it that low. You want that good smoke to roll over it. And when you have it low and slow like that, that fire is burning very slowly, so it just smokes really well, and that wood smokes really well. That's what you're wanting. The lower temperature, the more smoke. Now, I won't show you every temperature change we have, of course, but I want you to see what I'm going through when I'm setting this up. Now, once I get to 225, it'll be a few hours probably between this clip and the next one even. All right, guys, before we go on, in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see my little logo down there. If you'll either hover over it or click on it, my subscribe button will pop up. I'd appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. It really does benefit the channel. Also, if you guys agree or disagree with something, put it in the comments. We'll talk about it. All right, the number 5 principle is to keep it simple. Guys, I see people adding all kinds of different layers, putting a ring on there and putting these plates and different stuff, and it just really messes things up. Your vents don't know what's going on. They're saying, you want more air, but you got me blocked off, so I can't get that. Leave it empty. You want your meat, a drip pan, and of course charcoal. That's all you need, guys. So make sure you keep it very simple. There are things that are going to happen you have no control over. Wind, hot temperature, cold temperature, things like that. Manage those things best you can without having to add other stuff to it. Keep it simple. Keep it wide open. Drip pan, charcoal, meat. That's all you got to do, guys. As I did tell you, I'd show you the temperature on the Weber kettle thermometer, and it's showing well over 300 degrees. And we know we're at 219 actually, 221 now. So we're way off based on that thermometer there, of course. And that's why you got to make sure you get something like this one I showed you here earlier and the one I have in the description. Stuff like that'll work. Otherwise, you're looking at, trying to gauge it by that temperature there, and you'd freak out if it was over 300 degrees, if that was a real temperature. It's accurate for where the thermometer is, but it's not accurate for where your meat is. Your meat's at the grate. This is the top of the lid, right? That's where the heat goes. Heat rises, of course. All right, guys, here we go. Prime example. We're getting up to 257. We've got our top vent wide open, and we've got this vent where it was before. So we're going to close this vent even more to where it's almost closed. And we're going to watch this temperature for about 10 or 15 minutes and see if it doesn't work its way back down and level off closer to 225, 230, even 235. Because we want to be able to leave, like I said, leave this vent open if we can. This wind's playing havoc with us today. So if we can get this bottom vent to actually work and get the temperature down to stabilize much lower than this. But guys, this is maybe 10 minutes of this temperature, so not hurting anything. It's not the end of the world. We're just going to work our way back down slowly and realize it's going to take a few minutes for it to work. Now I'll come back, guys, and I'll time it, how long it takes to really see a difference in the temperature and see if it gets down to where we want it to be. If not, we will then, of course, adjust this temperature or this vent. I do want to show you guys how much charcoal has been used at this point. Again, a couple hours in, you'll see just the first, not even quarter of it's been used so far. Our pork butt's looking really good. I don't leave it all lit off too much because then you get these flames like this because you're getting too much air in here. So I want to shut it back real quick. But I wanted you to see how far we've gotten along with the charcoal. Okay, guys, it's been about 10 to 15 minutes since I made that last move, and the temperature's still climbing. The wind's still pretty vicious out here. So I want to go ahead and lower this. I think I've pretty much got this one about as low as I can get it. I don't want to close it all the way. So I've got to leave it open just a little bit, and then I'll have to actually start closing this vent up here a little bit. It's the only choice I have. I don't really want to do this because I really want that convection. But as the wind dies down or things change, I'll, of course, will continue to try to leave this one open first and foremost. So I will continue to watch this temperature and make sure that it doesn't start dropping. Hopefully in the next 10 minutes, 10 or 15 more minutes, and we'll go from there. So guys, there are actually automated devices you can buy for your Weber kettle or your charcoal grill that help you to automate this whole process of temperature management. For the Weber kettle, for example, there's one called the Spider Venom, and man, it works great. Love the things. But it always is better to be able to know how to do something without a device. Learn how to do it on your own. Be sure to learn that first before you go and start buying devices. All right, guys, this is what temperature management's all about. Look at this. Now it's down to 231, and it's still dropping slowly. But it's kind of stabilized there. So I'm going to go ahead and open this vent up here, even just at least a little bit, and see what happens to our temperature there. Again, I want to try to stabilize somewhere in that between 225 and 250 with this vent open as much as I can get it, and watch this temperature go. So again, another 10 minutes or so, we'll see a temperature change, a direction at least, or a stabilization in 10 or 15 minutes. So, but guys, this is ideally, I'm so glad you're getting to see these changes like this. It's not big, which is normal, but you just work the vents back and forth until and don't do a quick change to it. Just go slow with it and let things happen as they may. But don't try to push anything. Don't overreact. Don't underreact, but definitely don't overreact. Just know small movements are all you're going to do, and it takes 10 or 15 minutes to see the result of an action. We're about 106 degrees or about 50 degrees away, 60 degrees away from wrapping it, and our snake's move is just doing perfect. We're about a quarter of the way through it, if that far, and it's doing great. So we're going to keep riding it too. All right, guys, the sixth and final principle is plan ahead and be smart. Let's tackle the be smart part first. Now, I'm smoking a butt right now. It's 142 degrees roughly right now. When it gets to 160 or 165, I know I'll be in the stall, right? So I'll wrap it very tightly in foil. Here's where I'll get some comments. I will take it off my kettle and put it into my oven in the house at 275 or 300 degrees. Now, the reason why I do that is because once I've wrapped it in foil, once I've wrapped any meat in butcher paper or foil, I'm not getting any more flavoring on that meat from the wood, right? It's not going to happen because it's covered up. Why not save yourself the charcoal in the wood and put it in the oven? Now, of course, if you're out here with friends and you're having a good time, don't do that. Stay out here with your meat. That's what it's all about, is being outside and leave it on the kettle and cook together and enjoy family and friends. But if you're by yourself like I am today, I'm putting it in the oven, go get that thing finished, right? I can't do that when I have a lot of stuff to cook, but I'll do that when I have one. Now, the plan ahead part. You know, you may have an event you're going to, and your family's in the car blowing their horn waiting for you to come out there, and you're still 10 degrees away from your pork butt being done. If it's not happened to you yet, it's going to happen to you sometime or other. Trust me on that. It just happens to all of us. We don't know how quickly or how fast things or how slow things are going to get finished. Every piece of meat's different. So plan ahead for that. If you know you're going to cook an 8-pound butt, will take anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Add 4 hours to that for your rest time, and add 2 hours for cushion time. So you're looking well in advance of that 8 to 12 hours. Plan ahead for that. Plan accordingly for that. Plan ahead and be smart. All right, guys, it's the next morning, and we've let our pork butt rest overnight in the warming cabinet to keep it warm. It finished last night about 9:30, I guess, in the evening. So took it out of the oven, put it into the warming cabinet, kept it there for the night at about 155, 160, somewhere in that range. So now we're going to tear it open and see how we did. Now I know this is more about the temperature control thing, but I hated to not show you the end result of our cook. So got 2 layers of foil on here. We'll get this off here. Let's see how this looks. Looks really good. I use a new rub. We'll see how it tastes. Our bone, pull back on our bone. We'll just pull the bone out. And boy, God, I just came right out of it. Look at that bone. Look at that bone. Clean as a whistle. Set that to the side here. Now we can just tear this up with our hands. It's actually one of those kind of things we can do very simply with our hands. Gosh, that bark's really great too, guys. I'm telling you that, leaving that vent open on the top as long as I could really made for good bark on this thing. You're going to see this butt again in another video. I'm going to use it for some other opportunities to do some other things with this pork, so I'm going to show you that too. Cheers, guys. Man, that's tender. That's juicy. We hope you liked the video. We hope you subscribe to our channel, and until next time, guys, I'll meet you at the smoke.